Welcome back to the Cozy Corner podcast.
Hello. We hope that you're having a wonderful day. Thanks for joining Gabby and me today on the podcast.
In this episode, we're going to be talking about friendships, losing friends, toxic friendships, making new friends as adults, and everything in between. But first, let's catch up. I feel like it's been a while since we've caught up. So, ¿qué pasó, darling?
Oh, wow. Yeah, it has been a while. So it's kind of cool. We're going to actually catch up today on the podcast. This weekend this weekend was a very crazy weekend. It was very packed with adventure. It was a holiday weekend. So Monday we didn't have work. It was All Saints Day. So nobody here in Guatemala was working. It was a vacation. So we took a trip to this volcano. It's called Cerro Quemado. Okay. And so we went hiking, and it's like a worship place for indigenous people here in Guatemala, where they go and they hike, and everything is for God. They leave everything at the top of the mountain. They leave their prayer intentions. They take flowers. My mother-in-law, she took a vase that she had broken. It was like part of a retreat. She broke it, and then like throughout the whole month she had to like put it back together, glue it back together, and that was like God helping her, putting her life together kind of thing, symbolic piece. So she took that. Edwin and I took some flowers, and we prayed for like 30 minutes sitting on a rock. It's like very rocky, the volcano. So everyone like chooses their own rock to set their intentions on. It was so beautiful, and it wasn't a bad hike. It was like 45 minutes going through rocks and just being very adventurous. It was really cool.
Sorry, I couldn't. I was trying to find a mute button.
God bless you.
Thank you.
So that was our first thing that we did on Saturday. And the town that we were in is called Xela. It's like another big city here in Guatemala. On our way from there, we wanted to try and catch some hot springs, but it was too late. So we ended up just eating at this hole in the wall kind of restaurant. Of course, those are kind of, you never know. It's a hit or a miss type of thing. But oh my gosh, the food was so good.
Was that the picture you sent me this past weekend? The pig?
No, those were the tacos, which I'll get to very shortly. But no, we had caldo de gallina, which is like chicken soup. So delicious, so good. So after hiking all day and being like exhausted, of course we worked ourselves up to be super hungry. So we had some delicious food, and it's cold there. So it's really cool because there are places here in Guatemala that all year round they're the same temperature, practically. I was going to say más o menos, like speaking Spanish. But practically it's the same temperature all year round. So the place that we went, Xela, is like a cold place. So we were wearing our big coats and like our turtlenecks, and I had 2 layers on, like leggings and then my jeans. So it was really cool to like get to a different climate area, because here in the city, well, right now it's getting colder. It's like the winter time right now. But it's not like super cold. Like I'm wearing just like a very light long sleeve shirt and some jeans. Like that's the weather that it is here in the city. But so we went there and we got to enjoy something different. So since we didn't make the hot springs on Saturday, on Sunday we woke up and we went to the hot springs. It was my first time getting in these natural areas where it's like super cold, like I just mentioned, and it's in the mountains, so that makes it even colder. But there's just like this water that comes from the volcano, or like the volcano heats up the water. I don't really know exactly how it is, but it's like you're in a hot tub, and it was so relaxing, especially after the hike the day before. So we got into the volcanic waters and we relaxed there for a little bit. It was interesting because they told us that you had to like get into a cold shower and then into the hot springs and then back to the cold and then to the hot, to the cold, to the hot.
So that's like therapeutic.
Yeah. And so we did that and I loved it. Like we went to the waterfall that was like super cold. So I put my face and then I put my back and then I put my face again. It was so relaxing and I loved it. And the hot springs, they were called Las Jurinas. So it's also in Shela in the same area. So beautiful and so relaxing. And then on Monday was All Saints Day, and that's where everybody goes to the cemetery to visit their past family members. So Edwin's uncle had passed away last year, so we went to visit him. We left some flowers, we prayed, and then for the very first time, my husband went to the cemetery where his grandmother was. His grandmother died when his mom was like 2 years old. So his mom didn't grow up with a mom. And of course, Edwin obviously didn't have a grandma either. So we visited that. And it was such a nice and really adventurous weekend because we left Saturday morning at 5 a.m. and we got back Monday night at midnight. So it was just like go, 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 go. So Tuesday I was like dead. But it was such a good weekend and I'm so happy and so like rejuvenated because I hadn't done a weekend trip like that in probably a year. Well, when I was in Texas, my sisters and I, we traveled. Oh, I visited to travel Sabrina, but it was so nice. So it was good to get back into that like adventurous side that Edwin and I have. But sorry, that was kind of a long update, but Callie, what about you? What have you been up to?
So for me, this past weekend, I went, so for the Halloween weekend, my like latest trip was me and Brett went to go see Mercedes and Eric. We did a really quick trip. We got there Friday night, like at midnight, and left Sunday at 9:30 p.m. So while in Orlando, it was really nice just to have, like a quick weekend with my sister and Eric, because I haven't seen my sister in a while. And now that she's graduated from school, she's now working at the salon, Salon du Lait in Orlando, if anyone wants to go. And me and Brett, while my sister was working on Saturday, we went to Epcot. We like ate around the world. So if you don't know what Epcot is a park for Disney World, one of the 4 parks. And it's really beautiful because they have, like over 8 countries represented, and you can like eat and drink their food and like talk with the people from those countries that work at Disney, like at the booths and at the restaurants and stuff. So we did that and we rode a bunch of rides, and that was fun because that was Brett's first time, so I was happy to experience that with him. And
how did he like it?
He loved it. Like we both definitely love being like adult kids at Disney World and stuff. And we had been to one of the parks last year, but this year, we went to a park he hadn't been to. And he was like over the moon, so happy, so excited. We're both foodies. So like all the food, oh my gosh, we were so full from all the food we ate, but walking around, I think we hit like 15,000 steps. So we're like, you know what? We earned it. We earned all the food we ate. And then on Sunday, it was Halloween on Sunday. So it was fun just to kind of be out and about with Mercedes and Eric. Orlando has such good food. We went to this really awesome Asian place called Hawkers. There's actually one opening up in Dallas. It is the best like street Asian food ever. And then we gave out candy, which was really cool because last year, obviously it was, 2020, like trick-or-treating was kind of hit or miss. So this year it was really cool to see like kids out and about, obviously with like, a little bit of social distancing. It was nice just to feel normal again with that holiday. And then, late flight. And I really want to speak on this because it really connects to the episode. So yesterday, I got to meet up with an old friend, Reagan, who's catching up on our episodes. I've recently told her about the Cozy Corner and she's like, oh my gosh. And, she's on season 1, but Reagan was a high school friend of me and Darlene's. And, last time I saw her was 10 years ago, because that was when we were at, high school. And it was really cool to just like, catch up on life and recognize like how different our lives are, or like what we can relate on that, like, like it was nice to relate on some things and, talk through some things. And then, I started talking about like, how did our friendship end? Like, was it just we drifted? And she was like, yeah, I think it was just like you were in Ohio, I was here, you get busy. And I was like, okay, because like I was like, did we have any like animosity? Was there arguments? Like, I'm trying, not that like that's the only way to lose a friend, but it's just like, I just was like, refresh my memory. And she was like, no, girl, I think, the last time I saw you was at a New Year's Eve party. And life happens. So it's like, wow, well, I'm so happy. So she basically got back on Instagram after a while of being off social media. And then that's when I was like, oh my God, what? Like, the name. And I was like, well, once I saw her posting, I was like, I have to like try to get dinner with her. So it was really cool to like reconnect after like a decade. And like, especially, for me, I've talked about it in the podcast, like my social circle is so different now, moving back to Texas. And it's like, how do we make friends? And that's literally what we're going to be talking about today. So it was just like, for me, I was like, I reached out and she wanted the same thing to reconnect. I wanted to reconnect. So it was like, cool, it was a really great dinner. So that was also fun. And yeah, I sent you that picture last night because I was like, let's take a picture for Darlene. And he was like, how is Darlene? I was like, literally copy and paste. Like, she's the exact same loving energy from high school. She's like, really? I would think so. I was like, yes, I know. Because Reagan is like copy and paste too. Aww. And she apparently was like, you're copy and paste too. And I was like, oh my So I'm like,
totally.
So I love it. Yeah. Loved reconnecting
that is with her. So funny. That makes my heart so happy. Like, literally, I have tears in my eyes. Oh, it's so special. Yeah. We all know like how important friendship is. And it's so cool to listen to that, because I can think about so many people from high school that I wasn't super close with during my high school years, but I connected with them. We were friends because we had the same classes. We had great laughs. And so, yeah, it's cool to just reconnect and like relive those fun memories, because high school was so good. And yeah, always a good time. So
I'm happy that it was good for both of us too. I recognize like some people, I don't know if you've ever had friends that are like, oh my God, I never want to think about high school. I'm glad I don't think about that like that.
Yeah, no, me neither. I don't have any friends that are like that, I don't think.
Oh, I do.
But anyway, so like I mentioned, we all know how important friendships are and how they're a huge part of our lives. When we're growing up, you always had easy forms of making friends, of course, because you're in school. Maybe you met friends through sports, through church, in your neighborhood. Those are just a few ways that, for example, I made friends as I was a kid and growing up in my teenage years. But there comes a point in our lives where making friends isn't that easy, like right now.
And growing up, the friendships you have aren't always super dandy. They don't stick around your entire life, and you have to learn and grow and understand how to pick and choose the right kind of people for you. I definitely have my own struggles with friend fallouts, friendships ending mysteriously with no closure. And Darlene, I know you too have had those experiences. We've had like really private conversations, which is, I think, super important to have when you're dealing with toxic friendships that, weren't bringing me joy, and just like really just sucky endings of friendships. So for me, I have had, obviously, I feel like both me and Darlene want to be respectful to like not sharing names, just because, we're talking about like obviously toxic friendships and people that, we had to let go or that let go of us. So it's a sensitive topic, but I think the meat of it is necessary to share. So for me, in high school, I had a really, I think, big group of friends that like I gravitated towards with student council. And then, with that, I had like super, super close friends, like naturally some people would. And going into college, I knew that it would be a lot of work because I went out of state. But what I think I didn't understand is not being physically near some of my closest friends. It was hard to support them in lives they were living, because I only have one narrative of like my college experience, my 18, 19, 20-year-old experience. And, I had a close friend that was experiencing life in a completely different way. all the way back in Texas that I just couldn't support. And I couldn't wrap my head around how to be a friend, how to be Gabby to her. So I was kind of the one that had to let go of a friendship. It wasn't really toxic because there was nothing being toxic for me, but it was kind of one of those friendships where you just like had to put up a boundary because it's like, I can't take on whatever toxic they're going through. So it's kind of like, a selfish move, but it's also like, you got to protect your own energy. And I think at the time, that's kind of what I was doing without even knowing it. So that was like a big one. That was like one of my first closest friends where I just stopped talking to cold turkey. And, I'm a really sensitive person. I'm a people pleaser. I always felt a lot of guilt, but then I also just, I moved on, I was very distracted in undergrad. So, I made new friends and I'm living a whole different experience. And then my kind of like second and third of like really big toxic falling out friendships actually happened with my time in Miami. Undergrad was like pretty much like a breeze, like in and out friendships were very normal. So I never felt like a type of way about it. But in Miami, being in grad school, being more of like an adult with adult friendships, I've recognized that I'm a very like tight knit friend. Either like we're tight knit and I'm loyal and like I have high standards of like, I want you to reciprocate what I'm giving to you as a friend, which definitely learned that is not all people. I think there are a lot of takers in the world. I'm a giver. And if I can't be friends with just a taker. Like I need to be friends with a person that knows how to give. And I was in probably a couple of friendships where they were takers. And I think I mentioned this in the last podcast, like I defended our friendship because I was so scared of losing them, but I didn't recognize how toxic the energy was, where I was just like giving and giving. And I was a yes girl, but they were separate friendships, by the way. They blew me off and I'd be like, okay, that's fine. They're busy. They blew me off again for no reason, where literally left me hanging at a restaurant or at a movie theater, like super cold, and it was just like, I didn't want to be dramatic. I didn't want to be like, I don't want to be a nerd and be like the one that needs them more than me. You know what I mean? Which is that's ego, right? Like then my ego started to get deflated of just like who I was as a friend. And that's when I started innerly thinking to myself, okay, I have other friends that treat me much better. Do I really need this friend? Because they're not making me feel good and they're not making me feel like happy. Like obviously they're not making me feel happy. So it ended up with one of them, I let go because I was like, I had the confidence, but the other friend, it was a female. I desperately wanted our friendship to like make it work, but she totally, I don't have closure to this day, which is really hard. And like, it's like a itch you can't scratch because it's one of those things where I've tried to mend it, but she's like, there's nothing to mend. We're cool. Like, we're still besties, girl. But it's like, you're lying. You are lying to me. Like, this is like, it's cryptic. It became so, I'm like, wow, this is so toxic. So I ended up having to just, not text her back, not text her on her birthday, not do the things that I would want to do because it hurt so much when there wasn't love back. And that was a big one. That was like, that's what I have dreams about, where I'm like, I dream about like, well, one dream I had, I like cussed her out, which is obviously not productive. I had another dream where she like was like crying to me saying she was sorry, which is obviously a subconscious of like kind of what I want her to do because you made me like go crazy. But anyways, I've seen her on Instagram. She's living her life and I just have to like have closure with myself that like, I have great friendships that treat me great. She was a friend for a time and then that time has passed. So overall, I've definitely experienced hurt. I've experienced guilt with toxic friendships and losing friends. And most of all, I've learned a lot though. I've learned how now to like kind of pick and choose and maybe not get as tight knit to someone if I already see red flags about them maybe not being able to be loyal back to me or reciprocate the same maybe emotional matureness, because like that's, listen guys, like as we get older, you have to have standards for who you surround yourself with. Like last episode or a couple episodes ago I said who you are surround yourself by influence your future. That's, or maybe that's what you said, I don't know, but that's like a big thing for me right now, and it sucks though. I will say that it definitely is like, dang,
it's not easy. Yeah,
not easy at all. But what about you, Darlene?
But first I just want to like talk about what you mentioned about closure, because that's something that I think is super important, that maybe that other person doesn't see the hurt that you're giving them, and they don't like want to look for that closure, or they don't think that anything is bad, but you feel that it is, and you feel that it's not something good for you. So I like that you mentioned that you gave closure to yourself, for yourself.
Had to,
that was good for your mental health, right? So I think that's something important that all of us should try and practice. If there's something in our lives that, or a friendship in our lives that we don't see is benefiting us, but the other person doesn't see it that way, we just have to do what's best for us and find that closure that we're seeking, not seeking the closure from other people.
Right.
If you understand what I'm trying to say. So as I mentioned, making friends at school is super easy. It was for me. I was very blessed that I never had a hard time making friends growing up. I was also super blessed in the fact that I didn't have any harsh or strong drama between my friends. And I have to mention that because I was a person that only had girlfriends. I never was a person that had guy friends in my childhood or in my teenagehood. I was always just friends with girls. So I was very blessed in that I didn't have like huge drama, or like, I don't know, you see that a lot in like movies, and like I know a lot of friends too that they had such kind of drama with their girlfriends. So I was very blessed that I didn't have that growing up. I do have to say that when I was in second grade, I had some pretty big girl drama.
What?
I was a cheerleader at that time, and there was just cheerleader drama, I guess you can say. But anyway, I don't count. We were children. So anyway, but I have had not a lot, but I have had some friend fallouts that unfortunately they just kind of like, we just stopped being friends. But it wasn't because we got into a fight. There wasn't huge drama. It was just we grew apart from each other. And so my first incident of this was when I was in middle school. And at our school, we started middle school in 7th grade. So like 6th grade, I was like super tight with all these girls. And then we go into middle school and we're like filtered in with 3 other elementary schools, right? So then you're just like meeting all these new people, and that's the year that we got to do sports. And so me being super like energetic and super outgoing, well, not super, in the middle of that, I made a lot of friends. And so my best friend from like elementary school, she was kind of like not like that. And so just like going into understanding that it's easy to grow up and grow out of friendships too. So that was like my first friendship that I kind of lost, but it was just because we were growing older. And that's something that I think if you're younger and you're listening to this, you're in high school, that is so normal to grow out of friendships, because you do things that you love and your friend, maybe they don't want to do those same things. So that's super natural. And then going into high school, again, I was still with the same group of friends, and this is kind of hard to talk about because it was like the hardest part in my high school life, that I had a best friend that we did everything together. We played all the sports together, and we were like inseparable. But there was a time where we were getting into like upperclassmen, when we became juniors, that I wasn't like cool enough, I guess. And my friend wanted to get into things that I didn't want. You know what I mean? So it's like the same thing. It's the same thing where we like grow up and we want different things. But in the sense that you kind of just like get left out, or you like they don't talk to you anymore because you don't want to do what they want to do. And so that's hard. And the same thing, like I've had to find closure myself as well. And within this friendship that I wasn't able to get from that friend, it was just like, I have to lean on other people. And that was the time where Gabby and I got really close. So it's like such a blessing, like the things that happen, because now I have this amazing friendship that has been flourishing over these 10 years with Gabby. And of course, it's funny because we talked about this before, but like going into college, Gabby thought that I was like not wanting to be her friend anymore.
Yeah.
But that's just where communication comes in, and you just have
work.
to.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's work. It's not just like out of nowhere your friendships are going to flourish. You have to work for them. And so anyway, in that friendship that kind of like fell out when I was in high school, I've learned from it, and I've been able to find closure myself, in the sense that, it just wasn't meant to be, I guess, So anyway, those are just a few friendships that I had like in my childhood. And going into college, of course, it was easy again to make friendships because you have classes with people, you do different activities, and it's so easy to make friends with that as well. But like, it's the same thing. You got to work for those friendships. And like moving out from high school, going into college, the friendships that you had in high school, if you want to be friends with them and if you want to continue to have that friendship, like Gabby mentioned, you have to work for it and you have to reach out to them. Friendships are both ways. So there are times where I was the one, like reaching out to people from high school, or my high school years, like wanting to catch up, wanting to meet up. And it was just like a constant, like, okay, I'm calling them, I'm texting them, let's do something. And they're like, yeah, let's do something. But then nothing ever happens. And it turns out where I'm the only one that's like reaching out, and nothing is like given back. Then it's like, okay, now what? I guess they don't want to be my friend anymore. It's not that they don't want to be my friend. Maybe they just don't want to continue like that relationship.
Yeah.
That's hard.
It's
right?
Hard.
That's hard, where you like want that relationship and you want to keep nourishing it and like just catch up, but they don't, what is the word? Reciprocate what you want. And so that's hard. But that's where you realize like who your true friends are and who are the ones that do want to live this life with you. So I when I think about those friendships that I have, like kind of that have dwindled away, that just naturally like that, and if I feel sad about it, I try not to like go deep into that sadness hole. I try to think about the friendships that I do have, like Gabby, or my other friendships that I have that have been great since high school, my friendships, the friends that I've made throughout college as well. So just thinking about the friendships that have given me joy is what helps me to not think about the ones that kind of dwindled away.
Speaking on, having flourishing relationships like ours, what kind of segue into our second part is making friends as adults. What has your experience been like with that?
It's been hard. And I feel like that's with a lot of people. Like I mentioned, in grade school, high school, college, you're surrounded by so many people and they're going through the same things that you are. And I feel like it's easier to make friends with people who are in the same stage that you are in life. That's my opinion. I don't know if it's easier for you guys to make friends outside of that, but I feel like that for me, if someone is the same age as me, we're going through the same stages in life, it's just easier to connect and become friends with them. So it's been hard. I mean, for me, practically my adulthood has been me being married. So that's like another layer added onto it, because whenever you're married, it's kind of hard to make friends that aren't married, right? Because I have my husband now. So a lot of my friends that I've made in my adulthood, oh, another layer is that I'm living in another country.
Yeah, I
And
was gonna
so,
say.
and so like the language barrier when I first got here was, I mean, even still, the language is hard for me. And it's hard for me to connect with people because Spanish isn't my first language and I'm not like 100% comfortable with it. And so it's been tough. But like I mentioned, most of my friends that I have were because of Edwin. Like his friendships that he had is kind of how I became friends with like his friends, which has been good because they're super sweet. I have a really good friend who, she's a listener. Ilse, hello, shout out to you again. She's a friend here that I have in Guatemala because of Edwin. So I'm very grateful for that. I can probably name like 5 people on my hands that have become friends with me, but it's because of mutual friends. For example, another friend that I recently met, she's so awesome. She's another American who actually was here. She got here the same time, around the same time I did. So about 5 years ago. She works at she worked at the orphanage that we go to church. And it's funny because she's like, yeah, I used to see you guys. I used to see you and Edwin like at mass. And I would be like, oh, they're so cute. I want to be their friends. But we never became friends. It was just like through another mutual friend that we had lunch with. And then we finally became good friends. Her name is Misty. So shout out to Misty too. I know she's a listener. But anyway, so I think for me, finding friends has been really difficult in my adulthood, right? But I feel like once I do find that friend that I feel that we can make good connections, that we're living through the same kinds of things, it's easier for me, right? And so it hasn't been easy. But I feel like stepping out of your comfort zone a little bit, because with Misty, it was like, yeah, we became friends because of a mutual friend, but we didn't have to like keep texting her or like keep inviting her. But immediately I was like, okay, I want to be her friend. So I'm going to invite her this next weekend and we're going to go to church together. And so like, it's kind of getting out of your comfort zone, you know, and like inviting them to things that you're already doing, right? Things that that you know that they already enjoy doing as well. Or maybe they don't enjoy doing it and it's something that they could get to know or get to like to do, you know? Totally. So that's kind of been my journey as an adult, making friends. But I know, Gabby, that you too have struggled with it. So I'd like to hear a little bit about you and you making friends.
Yeah, I feel like, so it's funny. I feel like I relate being an adult, making friends with Texas now, because in Miami, I had school. I had the academic setting, which yes, I was an adult then too, but you're a student, so it's different. But yeah, not having like a job where you go in and you like naturally meet people that way. Not having obviously a school setting. Yes, it's been definitely tough. And, you know, just with the pandemic, like you're just like, I'm a hugger, even with my neighbors. I'm like, what is too much? Like, what is like inappropriate, appropriate, whatever. And exploring kind of like, I'm very interested when you were saying like being married, like it's very interesting coming to Texas, obviously I was like single here for like 2 weeks. And, being in a serious relationship, I personally don't view like I can only have now married friends. I know you don't view that either, but it's so interesting to me how I think there is like, what am I trying to say? There is a perspective that, oh, well, you're settling down, Gab. So like your single days of like having single friends is over or something like that. Very weird. And maybe that's not like a perspective of all people, but I've been told where, okay, well, you and Brett need to have a couple friends, which yes, I'm down to have a couple friends. And like, that way we can talk about relationships and all that kind of stuff. But personally, I, as Gabby, like want to still have my friends that, I mean, obviously I want them to know Brett and hang out with us, but I'm not solely about having only a couple friends. But all of that has been a struggle, whether I'm finding a friend for just me or for a couple friends for us. But recently, also, if y'all hear me rasping, I'm going through a slight cough, so bear with me. But recently, I've been working out with some of my neighbors in I say the back, like y'all know my streets. The street behind me, there is a woman and guy. Oh my God, it's like so formal. There is a couple named Kai and Cody. And I ran into Kai. She was super cool. She's like, work out with us. It's like, we got a girl gang going on. And I was like, oh my God, yes, for sure. So that's been really cool because some of them are married, some aren't, some are young professionals, some are a little older. Like I love all the things. Like I can be friends with anybody. Like I love it. Like I love experiencing life through other people, So that's been a really cool community to just be Gabby. And like, yeah, this is something I have just with myself. Brett's not, there are husbands and boyfriends and girlfriends that work out with their significant other, but Brett's kind of like an introvert in that way, which I respect him and support him for that. But that has been something nice because guys, I've lived here for over a year and this is the first time I've found like people I'm seeing on like a day-to-day basis. Like it's very huge. It's a big celebratory thing for me, which they don't really understand that, the friends I'm working out with, because I think they've lived here and, they've either grew up here. So in like my inner nerd is like so excited that I have like people to text and like go to with, I actually have something this Saturday with one of the girls. She was like, let's meet up and do girl stuff. And I was like, okay. So that's fun. And I mean, obviously I told the first season, maybe when I got toward it, I have a really close friend, Tasha, who was my boss, and that's been nice. But yeah, it is like definitely, it's just like going through life differently now that I'm with somebody because, even, okay, like take, for example, Jacob, I'm sure he won't mind me talking about this. He, Jacob and I have been childhood friends, but now he's moved to Austin. He's single. He lives in the, city hustle. I've tried to visit him every like 2 weeks or every week for a happy hour. And I think that like I had a perception that we would see each other more when he moved to Austin. Like, oh my God, I have my best friend like in Austin. But I understand like a single man's life versus me who lives in Leander with my routines. Y'all know that like self-care is a part of my routine, is a part of my self-care. I thought that though, like I'd have more of Gabby Jacob memories, but I think it's definitely turning into like, cause he's told me like, you live out in the burbs. Like it's more of an effort to make plans because I'm not in the city. I'm not just 5 minutes away and like can just like go scooch over to him. And so I've had to kind of like recognize like, okay, like that's true. Like I can't have what I, let's say, had in Miami where I was like super close to all my friends and we would go. Like, yeah, like I chose this life. I chose and I love it. So it's just a matter of like rethinking like friendships and like being so happy now. Like now that I've recognized like, wow, I'm so happy I get to see Jacob at least once a week. Like that's awesome. Like I thought it was going to be more when he first moved here because I was like, I kind of go crazy with like, oh my God, we're going to hang out every day. Like I'm going to go to Austin every day. But I recognize going to Austin every day is like not feasible. That's just like so much driving. So Yeah, we actually haven't had couple friends. So I'm like in the exact opposite. I feel like I've recently introduced myself to a lot of like personal friends, but I personally would love to like have couple friends. I think especially for Brett. I mean, both of my boyfriend and your husband are introverts. So like, which it's weird. I feel like there's such a like stigma with introverts. That doesn't mean they're not friendly or not open to ideas. It's just like they're naturally not going to be like us, where it's like extrovert and like, hi, like, you know,
Yeah.
I'm Darlene, I'm Gabby. So yeah, I want us to be able to both have like friend couples to go out with. So it's funny how we're like in the exact opposite in that nature. But yeah, I think I used to have more of a pessimistic thought about this. Even in season one, I was like, oh my God, it's so hard. I think though, like finding like the gem of people that see me as like not only like just like a girlfriend in the burbs, but like just like Gabby, and like I'm still me, like I'm still I guess unique. I think I was always scared of like my uniqueness would fade away if I went into a relationship. But that's silly to think about because that's like a self inward thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
But
think, yeah, no, I think that
that makes
that's,
sense.
yeah, no, of course it does. And I'm like so proud of you because you are definitely making an effort to make friends there in Leander and in your adulthood because it's not easy. And that's something that's funny how you mentioned like Brett being an introvert. That's what I wanted to mention too, because Edwin is an extreme introvert.
Mhm.
He loves just being at home. He likes to keep to himself. And me, on the other hand, I need people. I
Yeah.
need like that community of just people around me. And so
Mhm.
it's been hard. And especially being in a foreign country, in a country that isn't my own,
Yeah.
with a different language, it, like I mentioned, it adds another layer. So, but that's so good, Gabby. And we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, like privately, like seeing our high school friends like getting
Mm,
together and like doing things, and we're just kind of like on the outskirts watching it. That's
yeah.
hard too, right? But like I mentioned, just thinking about the friendships that are nourishing, that are growing, that are
Yes.
doing
And just like
great.
our unique lives, like we are both
Yeah.
individually so blessed with what we have and like our rich experiences. And yeah, no, for sure. Okay, so to end this podcast on a fresh, upbeat note, we want to give you guys some advice. And to start off the advice, so I was Googling like, you know, the topic, and this song came up by Drake. I don't know if it's a new song. Don't at me if it's like not a new song or a new song, whatever. I'm not a super Drake fan, but the quote stood out to me. And it says, I've been losing friends and finding peace, but honestly, that sounds like a fair trade to me. So the song's called Fair Trade if anyone wants to go Google it. But that's so true. Like finding peace, losing friends, if that gives you peace, hey, those friends were meant to be lost, right? So
Mhm.
advice number one from Drake. Um, and a few more is a few more is staying true to yourself. Toxic friendships, if you can't stay true to yourself, let them go. Also, it's okay to let go of friendships, especially ones that aren't bringing you joy. If you leave a conversation or hang out with a friend and you feel, I don't want to cuss, if you feel like shame or like icky, let them go. Know what's right for you and how letting go of a friendship can benefit you. Like find that silver lining and like self-care. We talk about this daily, y'all.
Mhm.
And understand that understand that that friend might still want to contact you and be your friend, but know your boundaries, know your worth.
Definitely. And like I mentioned, friends are super important. We need that community, we need that connection. And so, advice for making friends as an adult, like I mentioned earlier, that I have done meeting through mutual friends. It's okay to have friends with your significant other, like couple friends that we mentioned,
Mhm.
but it's also important to have friends on your own that are just for you. Do things that you love, like join a Zumba class, a soccer team, a book club, a Bible study, whatever. And doing those things that you love, you'll definitely make friends. Don't be afraid to invite people out for lunch or a cup of coffee. You never know how that friendship could flourish. Also, another piece of advice, which is something that Gabby did this week, rekindle old friendships. And so I'm so proud of Gabby for doing that lately.
Thanks.
And do not belittle yourself when you see old friends hanging out. Remind yourself of the friendships that you have and are grateful for, like Gabby, like me and Gabby.
Grateful for you too. Listen, y'all, the whole friendship thing is hard. And especially as we get older, it gets harder. But it isn't impossible to create new friendships we crave.
We hope that you're able to take away something from this episode, and we love to hear from you and how you've been able to make friends as an adult. For this week's intention, we want you to take some time to yourself and think about the friendships that you have.
Meditate or something of your choice on who you are surrounding yourself with and make observations on how those people make you feel. Are they toxic or are they healthy? Or if you lost a friend recently, instead of thinking negatively about it and about them, refocus your energy on the positive of personal growth of the situation.
Thank you so much for listening to the Cozy Corner podcast, where two besties come together, reminisce, catch up, chat, and discuss many topics all 20-something-year-olds face.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode. Feel free to write us on our Instagram at the.cozycornerpod or send us an email at thecozycornerpod@gmail.com.
Have a beautiful week and see you next time on the podcast. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube.
God bless, take care, and adios, amigos.
Bye.